You ready to go? Okay, this meeting is coming to order. If you would join me in reciting the pledge of allegiance, please stand if you are so able to do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we take the roll, please? I guess I reversed the order on those, but I think it's not going to do any permanent damage.
Chair Wonderman.
Here.
Vice Chair Moyer.
Here.
Director Alba.
Here.
Director Duke.
Here.
And Director Hennifer.
Here.
Welcome.
Excellent. So good afternoon, everyone, on this beautiful day in San Francisco. And I think, it's really evident to me just being around the city and around the Bay Area, how things are getting better and getting healthier. And there's just more people, and return to work is increasing. We saw better results in San Francisco for return to work in the last period than any place in the country. And so while we have a lot of gaining back to do, because we're at the bottom of the heap, we are doing that, and a lot of employers are requiring folks to come back. And I think it's just as important that people want to come back, and there's a lot of good reasons to want to come back. There's also a lot of visitation happening in the city. There's stores opening. It's not just here, it's around the rest of the region too. So there's just, it feels very vibrant. There's a lot of challenges still in the region. There's companies laying off people. There's we're dealing with federal requirements that are very, very different, and we're trying to figure out what things mean and work through challenges likes of which we haven't seen. All that said, I feel good about what's happening, and I think we're part of that. I think this agency's service, its reliability and quality that I guess we'll talk about later in the agenda, because it's actually an agenda item. But people want to come into the city, and they want to come in during the week, and they want to come in on weekends, because there's a really good way to get there. And again, not limited to just SF Bay Ferry, but definitely, I definitely feel like we're part of that quality that is people are flocking back to. So I want to congratulate every team, the board, everyone involved in doing your part. To make for such I had a wonderful ride in on the noon 1205 from Oakland, Alameda, really pleasant staff, a lot of different people, a lot of visitors, people pointing out where to go and what to do and how to do it. Just really very great. So thank you. When we did the roll call today, you noted, folks, that we have a new member of our board, Mike Kenneberry. And before I talk about Mike, I did want to reflect on the years of service of his predecessor, Jeff Delbano. So Jeff, years ago when I was talking about the ferry system and all of its things that we needed to do, and I was talking a lot to Ron Cowan, who in a lot of ways was the patron saint of ferries in the Bay Area. He would say, "Have you met Jeff Delbano?" No. He said, "Well, you really need to meet him. He's a real up and comer. He's somebody you really need to know." So eventually I was appointed to the board, and Jeff was on it. And recently, I guess he became the most senior member of the board. And I guess with him leaving, I guess that leaves me for that role. But, all of that aside, I really appreciated getting to know Jeff over the years. He's a friend, but he was a great leader for this system, and he really believed in it. It was part of his soul, and he did a lot. He did a lot for it. And, first and foremost, he represented the people who work on the system, who are, a lot of us think about this system, we use the system, but there's a lot of folks who they get up every day and this is what they do. This is their life. And he was all about making sure that their life was rewarding, and, that matters that would come up were handled properly, and that the issues of workers were, well represented. And I think the labor unions with whom we contract felt very comfortable going to Jeff and saying, this is coming up and you need to kind of handle this, or you need to, talk to Crazy Wonderman or whatever it was he needed to do in order to get ahead of issues. And in all of these years, we've had very, very few problems managing the relationships with our labor unions. And, this is not something that is necessarily common across industry, but this has been, the relationship has been really phenomenal. And I think a lot of that was due to Jeff's, forward actions on labor related issues and making sure that workers were included in as part of the conversation and everything that we did. So he was fantastic, really fantastic about that. And he also was a real champion for the riders, and he wanted to see fairness and equity in the system. And that came up a number of times, because if there was a criticism, I think, of our system, it was that we were the system in a way was designed to serve the needs of wealthier folks, people who had a better opportunity and so forth. And when this really came up a lot was in the pandemic, and we had to make adjustments. We were really thinking about, for those of you who are here, we really think about what do we do with our fares, what do we do with our schedules, and as we meandered through those conversations, one of the things about Jeff was he was very, very consistent. You could, he kind of knew where he might be, and he'd be there. He'd be there at the beginning of the argument, he'd be there at the end of the argument, and more often than not, he would win the argument. But in this case, I think he was, although he had help from others on the board, he definitely stood up for the opportunity that presented itself at that time to adjust the way we operate to serve the needs of people of less means and less opportunity, and who had different needs for the system to make life work better for them. And then when it came up again later on, when the pandemics began to recede, and we could have just kind of gone back to business as usual, Jeff was not about that at all, and he was adamant that we maintain the lower fare structure and that we have a really intense focus on equity and so forth. And I really appreciated him standing up for that and for the agency as a whole. He was just he was a great partner. We're going to definitely miss him. Hopefully he'll stay involved in some way, but he was a true champion for this agency, and I think we all owe him a debt of gratitude on that basis. I certainly feel that way. And I want to welcome you, Mike, to the fold. It's great to have you aboard, literally. And we haven't got a chance to know each other too well, but we've met and spent a little time together, and I know a little bit about your background and your service to workers through the Teamsters Union. And back in the day, I used to run a couple of garbage companies in the Bay Area, and I worked with the Teamsters Union. They represented the workers in my companies, and I will say we always agreed on everything. We didn't actually, but I had
not what I heard.
yeah. Whatever you heard was probably more true than what I said. But I gained a tremendous amount of respect for the way that union stood up for the people who worked for me and my company, and they were probably right at least as much as I was right on different issues. But I think just a tremendous organization that you come from, and in the brief amounts of time we've gotten to know each other, I have deep confidence that you're going to be a phenomenal member of this board. You're filling the big shoes of Delmato, but I have every suspicion that you'll do a great job. And my favorite comment that you made to me when we rode the ferry in that day, I think was it Fleet Week? Some big event.
They were trying out the new electric ferry.
Yeah, so she said to me, "Are we going to Alviso?" So I knew you'd be a great member at that point. So because then we have to remember that the nature, what differentiates this agency from others in transit. There's a lot of things we have in common, but what differentiates us is this was intended to be an expansive agency, an agency that would spread out and interconnect more over time. It's a smaller agency to start. It's grown quite a bit. The opportunities for it to grow much further are great. The only thing that's standing in the way is pretty much money and will. And I think over time we've had a good track record at achieving both of those things, and I suspect we will succeed as we go forward with that. So I look forward to working with you, Mike. If you need any advice, just ask Monique, because she,
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and your co-directors and the tremendous staff that we have. And so get to know everybody and we'll get to know you. And I think there's going to be a lot on the docket here in over the next period of time. We'll be making more decisions. So welcome. Maybe I'll ask you to just make some comments first. Usually I ask Monique as the vice chair, but we'll turn to you first.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. So again, my name is Mike and I'm a very newest board member. Definitely following in big shoes to fill Jeff's succeed him in this endeavor. So appreciate kind words. I can testify that I took the 11 o'clock over from Oakwood. It was an older boat, but it was on time and the Wi-Fi worked. So my parents got engaged on a ferry, so here in San Francisco. So I think I owe a little something back. So I'll try hard to fill the big shoes that I'm filling. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Welcome aboard. It's good to have you. And now Vice Chair Moyer, please.
Oh, okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Happy summer. Hopefully you're all getting a chance for a little R&R after that incredible year you all had. Kudos again for fiscal 2025. That was amazing. And I echo Chair Wenderman's comments on looking forward to all that's ahead of us for fiscal 2026. Pretty big agenda ahead, but and some headwinds probably in the current environment. But I do agree that where we have come 5 years now later with the current economic climate and the ubiquitous back to work, what the surveys are showing that are coming out of companies like CBRE are showing that we've probably reached nirvana, so to speak, that now 2/3 of or 3/4 of companies are saying that they are where they want to be and in their definition of what hybrid work looks like, which is a far cry from where we were even just 2 years ago in those same surveys. So I think that we as an agency are really well positioned to cover that that volume, but also the way that you all have diversified the passenger loads as well as the service requirements and the service areas is phenomenal, and I'm really excited about that. And now the ability to diversify the fleet is on the horizon, and excited about that as well. Hopefully, the federal government funding will hold, and we can stay the course on all of that. So thank you for all the hard work and also the strategy that went into that and the foresight that went into that. I really appreciate all of that, and probably can't say it enough, but when I joined the board 5 years ago, this was really something that we sort of talked about in a very, very, very aspirational way, and it's really gratifying to see that we are here. So really kudos to everyone for that, and all of the people listening who are avid supporters couldn't have done it without all of you. I also want to recognize our former member, Jeff Del Bono, for an incredible amount of work that he did publicly and privately to help bring us along, resulting in all of the where we are today, both organizationally, but also politically and in service-wise. And I think you said plenty and said it all, so I won't be redundant, but I do want to make sure that I thank him publicly for his efforts and miss his sense of humor on the board, as well as his very predictable commitments. We can always count on him to not lead us astray. So thank you for that. And Director Henberry, I really want to welcome you. We're looking forward to your perspective as well. It's really great always to have fresh eyes, fresh ears, fresh perspective. And I'm looking forward to learning from you and serving with you. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Alba.
Yeah, that's it's wonderful to kick the meeting off, with such warmth about Jeff Del Bono and our years with him. We could disagree on a lot, but we always found common ground, and I think that is something that is very representative of this agency and this board, that we're bringing diversity and we're bringing we're all coming from different directions, but we're here to find the best solution in every situation. And I think Jeff was a great representative of that. and I learned so much from him. And also Mike, it's a pleasure meeting you here today, and I look forward to getting to know you better over the coming years and to have similar discussions and deep opportunity to learn from each other.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Director Du?
Thank you. I echo everyone's comments about Director Del Bono. I really appreciated his passion for the communities we serve and his sense of humor always made things interesting. So I will definitely miss him on our board, and I look forward to working with you, Director Henneberry. So thank you for being here and stepping up to the plate. I also wanted to report on Executive Director Murphy and I gave a presentation to Solano Transportation Authority and just shared some of the history, where we are, and left a little seed of thought for them to consider that we do need increased financing and funding to be able to expand our existing services, including Vallejo. Vallejo is one of our most popular routes. And yet, although we do receive local funding from every other community that we serve, we do not receive any local funding from Vallejo or Solano County. So we did plant that seed of thought, and then I did get to thankfully you had created that presentation, because I then was asked with less than 24 hours notice to give a presentation to the senior roundtable in Vallejo. I was able to say, sure, here we go. And so gave a presentation at the senior center also to that senior roundtable. So thank you for putting that together so that I had that presentation ready to go.
Well, maybe Solano County will, will ante up when Mike, you're now you and Director Du are, you didn't know this, but you're co-members of the subcommittee that we have on pilot
He knows.
projects. Well, you do know.
Yeah.
So that's
Well, I
good.
had to ask what the committee was.
Yeah, so that's what it is, a pilot. So you're a pilot. And you can go to Alvisa, so you can go anywhere you want, but we could also go to Benicia and suggest to Solano County that they might want to.
I should
put in.
share, Councilmember Harry Scott from Benicia is actively working to put together a funding plan to build a terminal. And so every time I see him, he's like, well, I'm putting it together, it's coming
Yeah.
together, so we'll see.
The original ferry ride was from Martinez to Benicia in the Bay Area. So someday we shall recreate that. And, maybe we should have someday where we actually do an event or something like that and do a simulation,
Yeah.
something like that. And there's a lot of interest in Martinez, and there's a proposed major development going on in Martinez, and there's certainly a major development proposed for the Solano shoreline, and an opportunity to maybe build a shipbuilding facility, the likes of which we have not seen in our region since World War II. So some exciting things on the horizon for sure. And as far as the transportation funding goes in general, I think Director Murphy will probably talk about this, but there's been a lot of, I don't think this is on the agenda, right? So I can talk about it. There's been, a tremendous amount of work going into trying to get a transportation measure onto the ballot in 2026 to fund agencies who are facing a fiscal cliff, but to fund, this agency and other agencies that may not be up against it right now, but will come up against it in the future, or want to invest in capital or other things. And so, we obviously support that here. There on the Bay Area Council side, I guess I'm one of the leaders of the effort to try to make this happen. It's really hard, and every county sees it a little differently, especially your county. But it's hard because everyone's in a slightly different position. But I think that the bill authors, Senators Wiener and Senator Arreguín, have done a really good job of getting it to where it is. And I think our job is to help push it over the finish line and make sure that our transit operations in the Bay Area are maintained. I'd say there have been a lot of improvements in a lot of agencies that have happened over the last couple of years. And I'm not sure the public is quite aware that and Seamus, I think, has a lot to, a lot of credit goes to him for pulling everybody together and aligning schedules and aligning, working to align, how we pay for service, how transfers are going to happen. It's been a lot of work that's gone into this over the last few years that the public isn't aware of. And I think when they become aware of it, the people who ride the systems actually are aware of it. And the rate of approval is really quite high. When you get to folks who are still on the highway, they don't really get it and they don't know it. And we have to talk to them about what this means to them and continue to push for a sensible mode shift. So it's exciting that we're getting close. We're getting very close to when that legislation, legislators come back next week, and this will get voted on very, very soon. And if it goes as I hope it'll go, we'll have a measure. We'll know what we have to do to go forward. It won't get easy. It'll get harder because it's a complicated process to get this in 5 counties before the voters and get it passed in this environment. But I think we can do it. I'm confident that we can do it. And we'll be asking ourselves to really reach out and, make sure our riders and our workers and, our supporters are all, very, very engaged in this effort and that they understand what's at stake. So with that, let me turn it over to Executive Director Murphy. I know there's a number of things you want to report on.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Wonderman. First, I'll just add my thanks to Director Del Bono. He definitely leaves a lasting legacy here. I think every time we talk about Regional Measure 3, we'll remember the work that he did, and along with yourself, Jim, to make sure that we secured a really important instrumental piece of funding from that measure. And then he worked really hard to make sure that we're positioned to be able to do that with the next regional measure, hopefully. And I'll hand it over to Lauren in a bit to talk more about where we're positioned when it comes to that legislation. Jeff also he built a really strong reputational success story for us, and that's translated directly into some of the items that we'll talk about today. I just think about the last item on our agenda, the customer satisfaction, and his legacy on this board just leads directly to a system that has led to that is the #1 system in the country in terms of customer satisfaction. So everything that he did contributed to that, and just want to thank him for that. And welcome, Mike, to the board. Mike had a good opportunity to connect with staff. We met with him and introduced as much as we could, kind of the drink from the fire hose introduction to everything that's happening at San Francisco Bay Ferry. We've purposefully put together a light agenda here for you today, but they won't always be that light. We're going to get into a lot more complicated issues, obviously, soon, and you're coming onto this board at a time where we're in great transition. We have a major capital program, the largest capital program that we've undertaken as an agency, and also at a time when there's a lot to celebrate, and everything that we're doing now is designed to position ourselves to celebrate even more in the future. So appreciate you joining the board, and I look forward to working with you. Before we turn it over to the rest of the staff for some reports on finances and legislation and ridership, just want to talk a little bit about the community outreach effort that this agency has been pursuing. We've really made, since the recovery from the pandemic, a concerted effort to reach out to communities and make sure that they understand and are aware of everything that we're doing as an agency to improve commutes, to help reduce congestion, and really make it easy to get around the Bay Area. So I'm going to ask Tio Saragi, our digital communication specialist, to kick this item off.
Good afternoon, Chair Wonderman, Vice Chair Moyer, and directors. My name is Tio. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the digital communication specialist here at Estes Bay Ferry. And we're going to be sharing some community outreach updates. As Director Murphy mentioned, I will allow my colleague Carlo to introduce himself.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Harlow Pippinger. I'm an outreach and marketing specialist with Next Steps Marketing, the consulting firm that supports San Francisco Bay Ferry's outreach efforts.
So just to share a little bit of background on what the exact efforts that we were accomplishing over the past several months. So based on passenger and customer feedback, we learned that there's a specific perception that it's difficult to ride the ferry when it comes to first and last mile connections. And so this collaboration that I will be sharing about was a dedicated effort to contribute a solution to this perceived problem. So obviously, there are certain challenges with reaching new rider demographics. So we had several main questions going into this outreach effort, and that included how do we communicate why taking the ferry is an accessible and affordable transit choice? And second, what steps do we need to outline for these new riders as they build up the knowledge to become regular ferry riders? So we're going to share a little bit of the collaboration we did.
So as part of Next Steps Marketing's outreach efforts, we collaborated with a local community-based organization partner called Family Bridges, which serves seniors in Oakland's Chinatown. So in order to increase awareness of the ferry service and improve accessibility for low-income seniors, we curated a guided ferry trip that brought 23 Oakland Chinatown seniors over the age of 60 to San Francisco. So we brought them to the Oakland Ferry Terminal. We took the ferry to downtown San Francisco via the Oakland Alameda ferry route, and then we went with them on the One California Muni Line to the Chinese Historical Society Museum in Chinatown. And we then guided them back along the same route so they could see the whole round trip experience. Before we went on the trip, we also provided an in-language presentation with information about the ferry, including schedules, destinations, fares and discounts. And this was in language, as I mentioned, which is a really important accessibility component for this to make sure that we're engaging this specific demographic that it's mostly monolingual Chinese speakers.
So like Harlow mentioned, we really did want to come into this trip planning, thinking about the accessibility for certain demographic groups. We have Yan here, who's actually the person who did the in-language translation along the way. And we really want to help them understand that taking the ferry is accessible, is possible. Some people don't really think about it as like a thing they can do as part of the regular transit journey. They don't have the time for it. And so combating this myth essentially that it is doable and that it can take you to where you are headed and you can start and at your desired locations. So Harlow will share some of the survey results.
Yeah, so we conducted a survey of the participants. This shows the post-trip results. We found that over 90% of participants found that they were more confident about taking the ferry on their own in the future. And we also saw that over 75% were very likely to take the ferry again based on this experience. So this is really what we're hoping to see in terms of a positive impact on these participants, their confidence levels, and want to become more frequent ferry riders.
Yes, and a little bit of the digital marketing efforts we did in relation to this outreach effort. So if any of y'all follow us on Instagram, we did do a few digital marketing pieces, including a social media reel. And this reel actually reached both followers and non-followers alike, which demonstrates a likeliness of greater awareness of our brand among folks who may or may not be ferry riders. And so as we continue to engage in these community partnerships, we want to keep lowering barriers and keep encouraging awareness about our services among different demographics as we reach broader communities in the Bay Area. And speaking of other types of communities, I will kick it over to Lexi Matsui, who is on the Zoom to share a little bit more about an upcoming collaboration. And Lexi.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't look like I can enable video, so sorry about that. But good afternoon, Chair Wonderman, Vice Chair Moyer, and directors. Just in some more community outreach news, as I'm sure you're all, oh, I can start my video now. All right. All right, hello. So yes, as I'm sure you're all aware, September is Transit Month. So we wanted to let you guys know about an exciting collaboration we've been working on. We're going to be working on. On September 1st, Children's Fairyland in Oakland will be celebrating its 75th anniversary, and they're having a big parade with BART and a party in the park. So San Francisco Bay Ferry will be running a special early morning ferry from downtown San Francisco to Oakland, where families will then board an AC Transit bus to the 19th Street BART station and then join BART and Fairyland in the parade to the park. We are working with a social influencer, a mistress of ceremonies, if you will, who is named Kiana. She's a local Bay Area influencer with a big following, and she's been kind of acting as our fairy godmother throughout her social appearances. So she'll greet passengers on the ferry, wave to folks along the parade route, and take photos with kids at the booth at the event. So we just think this is a great way to both celebrate a historic Bay Area institution, Fairyland, and to partner with AC Transit and BART, promoting the launch of Transit Month and sharing that with all of our transit partners. So that's it. Thanks. And we're happy to take questions on either this event or the Chinatown to Chinatown tour.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. My question is, I think about as we've gone through this transition, and a lot of people are thinking about, how do we make downtowns attractive again? And, it's one thing for people to return to work because the company orders them to do it, and some people will and some people won't, and it sort of tests the relationship between companies and workers and people and all of that. But a lot of people do things because they want to. And, in my view, the ferry, while all the transit systems are great for what they do, this one is really the only one that's a destination unto itself. Maybe the Market Street Historic car and the cable cars, I guess we're going with that. So what were the folks saying about that, about the ferry experience itself, putting aside the fact that the transport makes it possible to effectively get from Oakland Chinatown to San Francisco Chinatown?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually did have a chance to sit down with the Family Bridges staff folks who work with those clients that we brought along the trip. And one of the specific clients sat down with us to share her feedback. And this was a really awesome opportunity to hear directly from this individual who lives in Oakland and doesn't take the ferry as often. And this was, I believe, one of her first times like doing a dedicated San Francisco trip. And I think she basically mentioned that, the typical things we hear, it's comfortable, it's very streamlined in terms of like, we were able to get to the SF terminal and then walk straight over to Muni. It was like eye-opening in a lot of ways, she said. We have a post up on our website that recaps that conversation with the Family Bridges staff, as well as the client who was interviewed for that. And so, yeah, definitely a great way for Oakland residents who haven't been as exposed, even though they've lived, their whole 30+ years of life in Oakland. The senior citizens were still really enthused to like do something new with the ferry.
Yeah, a lot of folks will use transit to get to something. This is an opportunity to have transit be the thing as well as to get to something that they want to do. So it's unique that way. Other questions, comments from the board?
Just a comment, thank you, this was really great, I really love what you guys did on that. And also, I forgot to mention in the presentation that we did to STA, Mayor Young mentioned that, asked if we were considering as a way of increasing ridership, making it free for children. And that by doing so, two things are accomplished. One, you get more riders because you get the parents, because their kids can go for free. And so you increase your ridership, but then also you're training children to use public transportation regularly, like their first choice. And it becomes something that they just automatically think of to use. So just wanted to throw that thought out there.
Yeah.
Great. Others? Well, thank you very much. I think this was, really good effort, and it's good to hear the positive views that people have. And, I think we're all firm believers that once people ride the ferry, we're gonna want to come back. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks. Next, we're going to review of financial statements. Aaron is going to provide us with an update on the FY 25 budget close.
Good afternoon, directors. I just wanted to take a minute because in your packet, this month it is the year-end close summary of financials. So just everything you need to know is in the packet, but just to review, the expense there's a couple of good news stories here. The expense for fiscal year 25 came in below budget, about $8.5 million below, which is always
Right.
great. Almost a third of that was due to fuel. We've talked about this a number of times. We always over budget for fuel. We did have about a couple years ago, a little bit of a scare when fuel prices spiked. So we generally budget for around $4.20 a gallon, and our average price was $3.31. Yeah. So because we buy a bulk price, because we've done good contracting with our contractor to get the best rack price, we've done really well on that front. Another $1 million of savings are really just the result of the demonstration projects, which are very difficult to budget for because we're never sure what the schedule and the costs are going to be for these because they're new by their nature, right? So the sea change, for example, we budgeted based on what we knew at the time, and it just didn't operate as often as we thought, and the costs were lower. Same for the Alameda shuttle. That was still an unknown entity when we budgeted for it. So that's another $1 million. We did have some system-wide delays related to the Clipper 2 implementation. They told us to double budget, but now the schedule has slipped. So some savings related to that. We also generally over budget for insurance because the insurance world has been very difficult to predict, particularly property insurance. But we did really well this year on property insurance. So on some of those we saved some funds, and then on some of the campaigns, the advertising things came in a little cheaper than we thought, and also some of the campaigns that Tom's working on, maybe they're hitting in July rather than June. Sometimes that 1 month difference in when things are kicking off just affects that budget. Labor, which is in a lot of ways the easiest to budget for, was 99% accurate. Sometimes we use a distribution formula sometimes to figure out where the labor is budgeted, and so on a route by route basis, you may see that it's a little up or down on a route, but in general, we were able to pretty accurately predict labor. We did have some labor savings, which were then eaten up by the negotiations that happened during the year, but it's all good. Vessel operations and maintenance. We really like to be conservative on that because the last thing we want is to not have the resources to fix problems as they arise. So we followed that approach again. We did have some savings on Pyxis class maintenance. They came in under budget by about $1 million, so that was pretty significant. And then there are just other various savings. It's kind of, 40,000 here, 100,000 there. So for example, facilities, operations and maintenance, there was a, 150,000 related to one position that hadn't been filled. Some more savings in facilities on some of our fuel. Although the fuel budget is separate, the supplies that we need for the green fuel that we buy, there are a lot of filters required. Those we saved some money on those, and we also had insurance saving. Again, the property insurance spreads throughout the system, so the facilities insurance was a little lower than we anticipated. So those are the sort of the good news on the saving side. There was also some contracted savings in the administration budget, such as some of our HR services and some of the business plan services that are still ongoing. So that coupled with the good news on the revenue side, which is that fair revenue came in $1 million higher than we budgeted for. And Tom and I have been doing a lot of analysis of why that is, because we generally use the same methodology as last year. And last year we came in pretty much on budget. And we really think we we just rock and rolled on the special events, and to the extent we had Valkyries came in, right, nobody could have predicted how great that would be. And a lot of the growth is showing up in the second half of the year. So it's baseball season, it's Valkyries, it's, the weather had been really good before the summer. So it's all those things. And then, as I mentioned in the report, the combination of the operating savings plus the revenue coming in means that we're able to not use $7 million of our RM3 allocation, which means it just rolls over into our reserve account and it's available for next year. So that's really, I just wanted to highlight these things and give you a chance if you had any questions that you had to ask or would like to ask on the report.
Well, that's a great report. I read it and was good reading it and good hearing it. And, some of it sounds like, you're thoughtful about your budgeting, like you err on the side of making sure on the expense side that there's some room, which I think is really smart. And then some of it's a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
And a little bit, I think, of good management and, thoughtful negotiations on a number of these things. And, the combination, that's a pretty significant savings. My only request is when we do our board meeting at Bay Area Council, if next week, if you would do it and keep the same numbers, like the same report,
Yeah.
I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. It's great to see us be able to put $7 million into reserves. I have a feeling we might need it at some point.
Yeah.
So, but that is really great to see because we want to, get the greatest value out of every dollar that we spend. We are serving the public. Other board members on the report? All right, thank you.
Well,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
were you gonna say?
No.
Well, I will. So thank you so much. I just, Aaron, want to commend you and the team. We've had a lot of conversation, as you alluded to, over the course of the year. And I remember with specificity, the conversation we did have about fuel when we were talking
Right.
in the budget process. And I seem to remember maybe we even had a special item on that. That part's a little fuzzy, but and I think the strategy, thank you for working so hard on that strategy. It really is great to see the outcome, and I really appreciate the transparency with which you go through the budget with us throughout the year so that there aren't any surprises, and then the happy surprise at the end is really terrific. Also want to call out the savings on the vessel repair. I think that's the first time I've heard that in my tenure, so. Let's have more of that. Especially, but in all, joking aside, to be able to do that as prices are levitating is incredible. So thank you for that management to whoever owns that. Gratitude, thanks for that oversight.
Thank you. Others? Okay, thanks very much. Good report. Keep them coming next year. There's always next year.
Thanks. Lauren's going to give us an update on the legislative outlook at the state and federal level, some bright spots despite the challenging federal environment, and definitely have our fingers crossed on some state legislation.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Good afternoon, Board of Directors. Welcome, Mike, or Director Henneberry, excuse me. I wanted to update you on two stateside things and two federal things. So what we talked about earlier, SB 63. There's been some movement on that in the last couple of weeks, which I'm sure you're aware of, but I want to make sure the other directors are aware of and the public is also. We've been working for several months with the authors to be included as we have an operating deficit that's projected in the latter years of the revenue measure timeframe. And we're thrilled that those amendments were actually included in the amendment that came out in the beginning of July. So we are now an eligible operator to receive revenues from the proposed measure. Really quick for background, SB 63 by Senators Wiener and Arreguín is a proposed bill to address transit operating deficits for several different operators around the region, including AC Transit, BART, Caltrain, SF Muni, and some other smaller East Bay operators and ferry systems. It would authorize a 10 or 15-year transportation revenue measure. And until last week, it was going to be in Alameda County, Contra Costa County, San Francisco counties. Last week, right after we finalized this board report, San Mateo County opted in, and also Santa Clara opted in unanimously. which is surprising considering the last couple efforts on this. So revenues would be restricted to just using them for operating funding with a small amount focused on rider improvements. This bill that would allow an actual revenue measure to go onto the ballot as a citizens initiative, which means it just needs a simple majority to pass. And then participating counties would be able to, if that did pass as a citizens initiative, then a revenue measure would be enacted by the counties. The only way it's been talked about so far has been a sales tax, but we're currently just calling it a revenue measure right now, not calling that out. And the expenditure plan prior to San Mateo County and Santa Clara opting in, there was a proposed expenditure plan that obviously needs to be updated now that 2 new counties have opted in. But the one, when it was just a 3-county measure, included SF Bay Ferry with approximately $7 million per year, or 0.7% of the revenue measure. All of this now needs to be updated. So they are working on that now, and as soon as we receive any information, we'll pass it along to you guys. The other stateside update is SB 79, which is a bill that would require a residential development proposed within 1/2 or 1/4 mile of a transit-oriented development stop to be allowed use on any site zoned for residential mixed commercial development. And it requires that the development be eligible for streamlined ministerial approval and then higher densities. We've been having a watch position on this bill for quite a while. There's been a lot of movement on it, providing some more definition on some of the definitions that they're using for major transit stop, and then also some things that were being worked out with local jurisdictions and their ability to control some of their land use. Sounds like a lot of that has been resolved with several different amendments that have happened since May. So we are in a position to now support it, and we'll be sending in a support letter ahead of the next committee hearing. The 2 updates on the federal side relate to FY26 appropriations. They are included in your legislative report from Accelerate Strategies, but I just wanted to put a little bit more clarity on it. We, 2 aspects of the appropriations process, we requested a community-directed spending request, which is an earmark. And that earmark was for $1.98 million for the Oakland modernization project. It's really some foundational work to get that terminal ready to be able to electrify it. And that was submitted by both Senator Alex Padilla and Adam Schiff, and it was included in the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Bill that was just drafted. That is great news, because the only way that we will not get that money is if Congress passes a full year continuing resolution for FY26. So we're in that process right now. Based on our legislative report on the federal side, I don't think they're going to come to an agreement before September 30th, in just a month and a half. But we have a long haul until a full continuing resolution would happen. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to get that money. The other news on the federal funding side is that we, along with other operators in the Public Ferry Coalition, have worked for years now to plus up the FTA Passenger Ferry Grant Program. That's a competitive grant program that's funded at $30 million a year nationwide. And we've been working with our partners in the Public Ferry Coalition to plus up that program. We've been successful since 2021 to plus it up by tens of millions of dollars. The Senate Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Bill that I just mentioned also included a $30 million plus up for that program. So now instead of 30 million nationwide, it will be 60 million nationwide. That also is not guaranteed. The only way that we will not get it is if they pass a full year continuing resolution that does not have language that protects that funding. Last year, Senator Murray worked to include language in the full year continuing resolution to protect that funding. And we would be working with our delegation here and other members of the Public Ferry Coalition to make that happen again. So those are the 4 updates, and let me know if you have any questions on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's although you're never quite there on the federal side, it's a good, it's a good show that we've been talking about this, and we've been able to deliver. And on the SB 79, I think that this is I realize there's a lot of antipathy around, if you go to other parts of America, development is generally seen as like something we want. You know, how do we get folks to come here and invest money and build stuff, whether it's commercial or residential or mixed use or entertain, whatever it is, right? But here in the Bay Area, development is treated with a great deal of suspicion. And our laws and regulations, you sort of hearken to that. And so, the idea of this agency as it's constructed was really, not just to deliver people across the Bay. We added the emergency response focus on it, which was important, but written in, as well, but written in was the intention was to try to make it so that there would be encouragement of development around transit, in this case, water transit, but not only water transit, but, how do you get more people to take transit? And you do it when they either work where the transit is or they live where the transit is or both. So there've been a number of bills that have passed over the years, and we've had I think good, slow, steady momentum in the direction that acknowledges that if we've got mass transit capacity, we should enable development to occur in those locations. So, Senator Wiener's original bill on this, I think, was SB 50 a number of years ago. And, people, especially in Southern California, were frightfully opposed to it. The cities don't like it. They want to have total control over their land use. Somewhat understandable, but regrettable, if we're serious about the housing problem that we have and the ability to have people live in places like the waterfront where the temperatures are cooler, where people don't need air conditioning, where they can live closer to the activities that they're performing. So I think it's a really important bill. And I hope it's been a really tough bill. We're the sponsor of the bill at Bay Area Council, and it only got out of the Senate by one vote, where it was initiated. So it's very, very difficult. I hope it continues on a path, and I haven't seen the latest amendment, so I hope when it gets there, it still means something. But we'll see. But even small steps are better than no steps. So hopefully, it takes us in the right direction. Thank you for taking the position on that.
Great. I'm going to invite Gabe Chan up to talk about ridership. Obviously, continue to see great numbers here. Little slowdown over the summer after hitting 100% in May. But I'm just always amazed at how accurate our planning, Gabe and our planning team are when it comes to projecting these long term. We always think we're being ambitious and shooting for the moon a little bit, but we keep hitting those numbers. So great news.
Good afternoon, Board of Directors. Gabriel Chan, Transportation Planner here at SF Ferry. So as you know, the summer was unseasonably cool, but I think objectively very comfortable compared to the rest of the country.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then that did register in our summer ridership numbers. In July, we saw over 300,000 boardings on the system. And compared to 2019, that put us at about 92% of 2019 levels. And then encouraging news also on Caltrain and BART. They're seeing a pretty significant uptick in recent months as well as kind of the return to office kicks in the peninsula and in the South Bay. And then I want to call to your attention the second graph in the packet that shows average daily ridership by month, which has our third straight year of ridership growth. So closing out FY25 on a strong note, encouraging signs for the future. And as we mentioned at previous board meetings, the projections for this coming year are significantly more aggressive than what we've had in the past. And so far, we're hitting those targets.
Thank you. Just say that I had a meeting with Michelle Bouchard over at Caltrain a couple of weeks ago and had lunch yesterday with Bob Powers and his team from BART. And, those agencies are just doing much better. Caltrain's provided electric train sets that offer fantastic Wi-Fi. It's a big improvement, and they've seen a big jump in their numbers. We're not really competing with Caltrain because we don't have a route. I wish we did. I'd like to compete with them and get Redwood City done. That would be good. But we certainly compete with BART. And I think in BART, BART hasn't seen a big jump in percentage ridership, but they carry more people. So a couple of percent is a lot more people. And I notice it, I see the parking lots, they're definitely doing doing better, and, you know, I think they've made a lot of improvement. So I think for the future, we're not gonna win by attracting people off other mass transit systems. Our success and growth in the future is gonna be based on, more success in mode shift. We gotta get people off the highway and out of their cars and on a transit, and we'll get more than our share because, you know, because that's the way things are. We're gonna do fine if we could just get people using transit. So I hope we can, you know, work with, I hope we can use this campaign on SB 63, if it goes forward, to run a really big promotion in the region about how transit is working and connecting and doing, and, you know, I think we'll continue to see another year of ridership growth, with that.
Just to add to that, Chair Winderman, I think you're spot on that we're not competing with our, you know, peer transit agencies. We're partnering with each other, and we have a big chunk of people who would love to potentially be on transit at some point in the future when it works for them. And so helping them make that decision, and whether it's on BART or Caltrain or San Francisco Bay Ferry or a local transit agency, that's the big piece of the pie that is currently untouched. And so continually working towards nudging the single occupancy vehicle rate down is something that the entire region will benefit from, because we're providing more space for those who really need to be in a car for that specific purpose, to be in that car. And for those who can use other modes that are affordable and more sustainable, good for that.
And I would add, I think what you said is extremely valid. A couple of points that I would add there. I'm a Caltrain rider. The new train cars have brought their standards up to our standards, and I think
Yeah.
that has attracted a lot more ridership. The seats are comfortable, the Wi-Fi works, the restrooms are clean, except that we do not have concessions. So we still have that advantage over them, but I would certainly be a user of that if they did. I will say, as somebody who commutes south, the sooner we can get people and support them from Mission Bay, that will be a game changer. Because the commute out of Mission Bay to the Bay Bridge is untenable. It is, if any of you are sitting in that traffic, it is outrageous. There's certainly people back to work coming out of Mission Bay. It is insane.
Can I add one more?
Sure.
So we
Of
also
course.
talked about, I think in the staff report, it was discussed that we're moving away from comparing to 2019 pre-pandemic numbers to now just past performance over the past year and rolling. And I think that's right. I would still love to just see how we're doing every quarter or every so often, just to hear how BART and Caltrain and other transit agencies are doing, and in regards to their continued recovery and how we're performing as well, because it's going to be that day when we're consistently above 100% of 2019 ridership is a really celebratory day.
You know, a lot of this is about people moving about more on Mondays and Fridays. I mean, that's where a lot of, you know, some really big numbers are. And so I think that's something we all can think about, is how to get, you know, it gets down to the individual and their preferences. And, you know, people will move about if there's a reason to do it. And so more fun stuff to do on Friday. Fridays used to be a lot of fun. You know, I used to look forward to going to work on Friday, because at the end of the day, there was just a lot of activity, you know, when you go out with your team and the bar, you know, just a lot of that stuff. And I miss that. And I think, you know, I think that will help get people back. And of course, the other, as you mentioned, is with Mission Bay, is the routes. So, you know, the other way we can grow is by adding more service to the routes we have, and by adding routes that we don't have. So, you know, that all requires money. And that's, you know, that's gonna have to be, you know, I don't think SB 63, even if successful, and if it brings us what we anticipate it'll bring us, it just keeps us going. And we're fortunate to be in the position with Regional Measure 3 where we are, but there's gonna have to be another movement here in the future that's bigger. And we need, as a region, when it comes to transit, we need to just think bigger about it in the next iteration. We were doing that up until the pandemic hit. And then we've been in this kind of defensive mode. But now I think with a lot of things that are happening, and BART with new cars and Caltrain and with our electric ferry system, et cetera, there's going to be some opportunity to, I think, attract more people to transit in the future. And, we should be, I hope we can use SB 63 as a springboard, or kind of an organizing springboard to get to the place where the Bay Area and beyond has a system that matches the qualities of other systems around the country, where, people can travel much farther distances using transit than they can here reliably. So all of that is just exciting future stuff.
Yeah, I do think this midday trend is gonna continue. I mean, even here in San Francisco, as soon as you go one block north or one block south of Market Street, the activity level rises very quickly. And it's not office workers. There's a ton of activity going on. It's pretty amazing
Getting better.
how the renaissance has occurred.
Yeah.
You can't go by closed storefronts on Market Street. That's not gonna tell you who's gonna be on the ferry. You can go a couple blocks in.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I would love, I agree with the sentiment of Director Alba, though. I think it's important that however you're paying attention, if you could share that with us, that'd be really helpful. But I do think the trend has permanently shifted. I agree with why you're not going to continue to look at 19, but I'd love you to train us on how to look at it.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing right now is, especially, as you mentioned, the Fridays used to be like the big kind of after work Friday, right? That's really shifted to a Thursday now, and we're seeing in ridership numbers where Thursday is a big day
Yeah,
for the ferries.
Thursday's Friday.
I'm constantly amazed at how much activity is happening in this city. And I cannot figure out how the television reporters can find the one spot that's dead. Because they manage to, they must go to the same spot every time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Chair Wonderman, we're going to skip the reliability report. Nothing out of the ordinary there. Continue to see good reliability system-wide. We'll go to the quarterly review of the capital program, and Gary Griggs is under the weather today, but Tim is here. He's going to give us a quick highlight reel of the quarterly report and talk about some upcoming items on this topic.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman, members of the board. Welcome, Director Humphrey. I'm here today to give a brief update on the capital program with the main focus on our REEF phase 1 and 2, and then talk about some other key milestones that we've accomplished. First, I'd like to bring to attention that the Zalafis, which is the 4th vessel in the fleet, is near completion. Yep, great news. We start owners and builders trials in the next week, and we're hoping to wrap that up in about 3 weeks. And so weather dependent, we hope to get the vessel back here the end of September. The last boat, there was over a month delay in the weather. There was just like this extraordinary event. So, hopefully it's not that bad, but yeah, should be here soon, and that'll wrap up that program and that fleet build. So Maverick Marine's doing a great job closing that out, and it's going so smooth now. By the time we get to the 4th one, I wish we can add a couple more. But as we all know, this will be our last diesel boat that we build.
Yes.
So with that, I'd like to kind of jump into REEF phase 1 and REEF phase 2. So the 150 passenger vessel that we awarded 3 of those vessels to All American Marine. So that program is underway. We recently completed the design phase and the engineering, and we're getting ready to start construction of the vessel. So that's progressing well. The entire team's happy about where we're at in the program. We anticipate that first vessel being completed in March of 2027. The 400 passenger vessels were awarded to Nichols Brothers Boat Builders. We're currently in the design phase and the engineering, just making sure that we're all in agreement on what equipment that we're putting in. One of the things that is different from
these builds than our previous ones, and just the amount of collaboration that we need for the program as a whole. And so there's a big emphasis with our team to make sure that the 150 and the 400 and the universal charging floats and everything is talking and everything's we're using the same equipment as much as possible to make sure that we have that reliability and that robustness and that we can maintain it when it's finally delivered here. The completion for the first 400 passenger boat is we anticipate to be in July of 2027. Some more good news. We received a grant award from the VW Trust Fund for $14.7 million for the Hydrus conversion. And so we plan to convert the Hydrus, which is currently a diesel boat. It's a Tier 4 equivalent, a Tier 3 engine with an after market treatment system, to a all battery electric vessel. The past 6 months, staff has spent time doing initial concepts and design and engineering to ensure that we can do that, and we feel comfortable with that at this stage. Now that we have the grant, we're going to proceed with the remaining part of the engineering to ensure that that boat can meet those demands. One of the big focuses on this conversion is to put as much equipment as possible that we're using on the 400 passenger boat and the 150. And so we don't have all this different equipment in different boats that we have to try to maintain.
What would the expected timing be of delivery of that final conversion?
Early 28, late 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and right now we don't have funding for the remaining 3 vessels. We're actively looking for it. But our plan, as outlined in our capital plan, is to convert that entire Hydrus class over to battery electric.
That's the full amount. The amount of the grant covers we think covers the conversion.
For one.
The amount right now, the engineer's estimate is at 21 million for that, and we're refining that and double checking, and we're still so we do have to find a remaining, that remainder somewhere else. And so we just have started those discussions over the last couple of days.
And no loss in seat capacity bikes with the conversion to battery electric?
No, as of right now, no. And that's been during the concept stage, the last 6 months, that was what we wanted to ensure. One is that the stability of the boat is okay, and that structurally the boat can handle the weight. And we've determined that that's going to be okay. So there's a lot of engineering to do going forward. But we feel confident that we'll be able to maintain similar passenger counts. And that's what we're going into the project, assuming is that we're gonna stay at 400. That's the goal. Any more questions on the Hydrus conversion before I move on to
Anything keeping you up at night about it?
about which one?
Well, since you said that, any of
Did you
them.
read that list? In the link?
I did, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the 400 passenger. The 150 passenger, we feel very confident we have the right people on it, and we've had a lot of time to do the engineering. The 400 passenger, we've just completed the engineering a few days ago when what we call the design phase. And what we're doing there is we're getting the entire teams together. So Elliott Bay, Aurora Marine Design, our CMs, the designer from the shipyard, which at Nichols Brothers is INCAT, and then the shipyard itself. And so what we're all doing, and it's a good environment because we're working as a team. We want to ensure the boat can perform. Now, this has never been done. And so there's a risk there. So there's a lot of concern. And so what keeps me up at night is making sure that we are all on the same page and that we are all comfortable, not just us, but the shipyard, because we don't want to be in a position where the boat's not performing, that the boat's going to do what we think it's going to do. And once we cross that, which we have on the 150, I get to sleep again. On the 400, we're very close. And so as we have the right people, and it's just a matter of time and working through the engineering to make sure that we can get there.
What's the speed that we're looking for on those?
So
Yeah,
contractually, the boat has to go 24 knots. We're hoping to get up to 26.
Same between that 150 and the 400?
Yes.
Is there any regulatory oversight as you go, because it's not been done before? In other words, do you have to show any engineering specs to the Coast Guard or anyone like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Coast Guard is the regulatory body. And so they are the ones reviewing the drawing packages and ensuring safety and fire safety, life safety.
Then have Are you bringing, I assume you are, but are you bringing them along with you since this is all new territory for everyone?
Yeah, and so
Are you, is that a bottleneck in any way?
it's been great so far. It's definitely a concern. And what we did during the initial kickoff meetings on both the 150 and the 400 is we brought the local Coast Guard there that does like routine inspections. And then we've engaged MSC, who, that's who we're submitting the drawing packages to. And we also hired 2 engineers that work in the Coast Guard for 2 decades.
Retired.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so we have a direct path there. And so the relationship with Coast Guard, it's new for them too. We're working very collaboratively with them and almost at a point where we're kind of not writing the regulations, but we're getting through the regulations with them. The good news is they've done this, it's not the first in the world. And so we're able to utilize some of the work that's been done overseas, particularly in Norway and Sweden.
Any other surprises, positively or negatively?
On those boats in particular,
On the
just
list?
the entire capital program.
Sure.
I think the universal charging floats have been really challenging for us. We have a path forward, but what we didn't anticipate is that the universal charging float would be deemed a building and we'd have to follow the building code.
Welcome to my world.
Thank you for that.
Oh, well.
The Klamath.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the climate, yeah.
If you don't move it every day.
It's a float. It's not, I mean,
If
at least you
you
could make the case on the climate.
So going into it, we did not anticipate that we would have to follow that code. And so we're working with the port, we're meeting with them, with the Port of San Francisco a lot. We're working through it, but it's hard.
If only there were a Bay Area council that could get a legislative amendment done.
Well, yeah, you should join the committee.
So, yes, I'm aware of, yeah. Okay, thank you. Good answer.
Okay, so now I'd like to highlight some upcoming recommendations that staff will be bringing to the board in the next couple of months. We have a lot going on, so I tried to kind of limit it to just what we're going to see in the next couple of months and some of the key, milestones that we're looking at accomplishing. And so one is the Treasure Island infrastructure. Obviously, we need infrastructure in order to charge all these vessels. And so where are we at with that? The engineering is 90% complete. We are about to bring to the board within the next 2 months an action to purchase long lead time materials. So that includes transformers and switchgear for the Treasure Island site to ensure that we kind of speed up the program. Because we're seeing a lot of delays when it comes to the electrical equipment, just in receiving it from the manufacturers and the distributors. And so this is one way for us to ensure that, we can meet those tight deadlines. Technical specifications are in development for Treasure Island. And once that's done, we'll also be coming back to the board with a recommendation for the construction. Universal charging floats. So we talked about that a little bit. We're actively negotiating the construction of the universal charging floats with the shipyards. We've received 3 proposals. We anticipate coming back to the board with a recommendation within the next 2 months. This is a huge milestone for the agencies. So what these universal charging floats do is it allows us to accomplish what we want in phase 2. And that's really important as it relates to the larger boats that we have the capacity to charge those. With that, I'd like to open up for any more questions, or I can answer any questions that might have come up or clarify anything in the board item that was written.
Well, I'd say, in business, they, typically you get advised to focus. You just got to focus on a couple of things, but in this business, you can't. You've got this laundry list of things that have to be done concurrently and be moving along, or else it's not going to be successful. And I would just say, I think I said before, that as you look down the list of risks, the number one risk is that there won't be the money to do these things. So we're planning for the future based on the belief that we'll have the funds to do what we need to do. So, we need to double down, I think, on that all the time. But I just commend you and Gary for having, to be working on a number of things, some of which to different degrees have never been done before. Certainly haven't been done in this country. It's pretty great. And I will say, because I always say, I wish we were doing it in the Bay Area. And I hope in the future, I think it would be easier for us if we were closer to where the construction was happening. So as, things don't go exactly the right way, or there's questions about, go this way or that, we could be closer to the answer and so forth. But
Even for support too, if you had a local yard building for support in the future to
Yeah.
help maintain, right?
so I'm hopeful that we'll get to that place in the future, and hopefully not too distant future. Other folks? And congratulations on the progress you're making. It is very,
Grid capacity, any concerns at this point, in regards to ability, the power actually being available, especially here? in San
good
Francisco?
question.
Yeah, so some of our key sites in rephase 1 and 2. I'll start with phase 1. So to accomplish what we want with the small boats, we have a very detailed plan. We think that we can execute that. Doesn't require a massive amount of power in. And so as we talk about like Mission Bay, downtown San Francisco, and Treasure Island, I feel very confident we'll be able to accomplish that. Most of Reef Phase 2, Seaplane, downtown San Francisco, and even Oakland, we're working through. We don't see any huge red flags as of now. There's a lot of work to do. Obviously, we're all, one thing that keeps me up at night is bringing in Gary. We talk about it late at night sometimes, is bringing the power into downtown San Francisco. It's a monumental task. We've done everything that we can do. Chad has worked on it and his team, our team's actively engaged, but it's a monumental task to do. And so right now, I know for risk mitigation, Gary's working on an option to possibly provide some temporary power there in the interim to us getting that project done. And so that's become a huge priority for us for risk mitigation to ensure that we were able to still meet some of those Reef 2 goals with the vessels, even in case that the larger, bigger program of bringing the massive amount of power to downtown San Francisco is delayed.
That makes sense.
What are the implications if and Monique, you might have an answer or a thought, but about if we end up fixing the Embarcadero and having to raise, the structure of the road and the buildings, what's the implication for the ferry system? Because we're putting in all this infrastructure there, what would happen?
I would just say it's super conceptual, but that project will need to mitigate for any impacts that it has on ferry service. And so before they can go ahead and implement the project, they need to make sure that we're fully equipped with whatever mitigations are necessary to continue to power our electric ferries.
Yeah, mostly a seawall project.
Yeah.
Chad can answer this question.
Yeah, Chad wants to speak up.
I'll be brief. Chad Mason, Capital Flooding Manager. We actually met yesterday with the Port's Flood Resiliency Team to look at our alignment and the alignment below grade in the Embarcadero roadway from Seawall Lot 328 to the ferry terminal. That looks good in relation to the future work that will happen in that area. It gets much more complicated if we were to go to the north, where PUC is along with us and looking at the alignments and options to extend further. It gets really complicated when you look at what happened with the ferry building, raising the 7 feet that it will need to go. But the improvements that will happen south of the ferry building are all bayside and not in the roadway. So most of our improvements will be okay. And we're coordinating with them. We will have to transition from below grade to above grade to the terminal. But we'll be working with them, and any way you look at it, it's temporary. It will have to be reworked.
Thank you. Other questions, comments on the capital program? Well, thank you, Mr. Hanners.
Thank you.
Go to sleep at night. It's okay. It's all gonna be fine. Director Murphy, have anything else?
Nothing to add. That concludes a very long executive director's report. Thank you.
Thanks for the comprehensive report. We have one speaker on item number 5, Alita Dupree. Welcome aboard. Yeah, please come up. Introduce yourself. You know, I introduced you.
Podium's over here. Where's my clock?
I'm your clock. Please
Okay.
go ahead.
Um,
You're the only speaker, so you know.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Wonderman and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. Lots of things, lots of good things. It's good to be back with you. Ridership is up. I did see a mention in the written ridership report that we are gonna, it looks like we are gonna move away from pre-COVID comparisons and focus more on developing our business, which is a good thing, because I want to see us go past that. And recently, was it last month, I listened to a presentation by New York City Transit, of which I attend their meetings on Zoom, which talked about really emphasizing the service quality in bringing people back onto their bus network and their famous transportation system that is the subway. So we practice service quality here on our system, and I used it yesterday. And how do we get people into the last mile? Because there are some disconnects here on the East Bay side that I find. Capital is very important. I want to see the electric boats. I've never been on one. And I was thinking, I was in Seattle a few weeks ago and rode their ferries. Washington State buys 19 million gallons of diesel fuel. And I think they buy it straight petroleum stuff. We're buying green fuel. We've heard the mention, which is good. We should keep doing that. And the mention of resiliency. I've seen videos of the king tide coming in here and lapping up over the sidewalk. That is concerning. But we're doing good with the money. That doesn't keep me up at night. We're focused on the issues of the money. We're making budget. We keep bringing people in. Fair revenue is absolutely essential. Clipper, really got to work on that. Hopefully we'll see Clipper too soon. Bart's doing open payments next week. I've known about that since the Clipper Executive Board, but that was mentioned at Bart meeting today. Bart going forward and doing tap to ride next Wednesday. I plan to try it. So there are lots of good things here. I appreciate it. And I look forward to us continuing with the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Okay, do we have any other folks, Melanie, on item 5?
Nobody else has signed up to speak.
Okay, well, thank you, Executive Director Murphy and team for the great report. Let's go to item number 6, which is the consent calendar. It is made up of, let's see, 1, 2, 3 items, A, B, and C. Anyone want to pull an item for consideration? If not, can I get a motion on the consent calendar, please?
I'll move to approve.
Second,
We have a motion, and a second. Can you call the roll, please, Melanie?
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer.
Yeah.
Director Alba.
Yes.
Director Duke.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
yes.
Thank calendar.
Okay, let's talk about dredging. Item number 7, award contract to the Dutra Group for the Vallejo Ferry Terminal Dredging Project.
Thank you, Chair Wonderman, Board of Directors. Welcome, Director Henneberry. My name is Chad Mason, Capital Planning Manager. Today, I'm presenting a recommendation of award of a contract to the Dutra Group for 2025 Vallejo Ferry Terminal Dredging Project. This project is critical to maintain navigational safety and operational reliability for the Vallejo Ferry Service. The scope consists of maintenance dredging of the ferry terminal basin. We're on a 2-year cycle right now of dredging the Vallejo Ferry Terminal. Each time as we get closer to the dredging event, ferry service is disrupted at low tides. And it requires a lot of coordination with operations and Blue and Gold to respond to that. Good news is we can predict those events and be prepared and notify the riders to have the least disruption. This is potentially the last time we dredge Vallejo Ferry Terminal as we're continuing to advance the reconfiguration project. If all goes as planned, the modeling suggests that the next episode could be as far as 20 years or maybe never again. It's hard to say for sure, but the duration will be extended and it'll be much less disruptive to operations. This episode will occur without setting up the temporary ferry terminal as we have in the past. Decision was made as a cost savings measure to avoid the complexity of moving the passenger float from Pier 40.5 and setting it up to in Vallejo and then doing it in reverse. And it's less disruptive to the successful operations and service we're now providing out of that terminal to the Valkyries, for example. This cost saving effort appeared successful as the last dredging episode in 2023 was just over $2 million. The passenger float will be removed and stored at the North Bay Operation and Maintenance Facility. So we coordinated really closely with the operations and Blue and Gold Fleet to identify the best time frame during the environmental work window later this year. That time will be Veterans Day weekend into the following week. It's generally a lower ridership time of year for us. So dredging will occur starting the evening of November 7th, this year, and reopening in the morning for service on November 12th. During that dredging event, ferry service will be shifted over to Mare Island Terminal and then shifted back. And it'll involve shuttling passengers back and forth to get back to the parking area. All Environmental Resource Agency permitting is complete. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, DCDC, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and Regional Water Quality Control Board. The IFB was issued on May 8th. 3 bids were received in response. At bid opening, the Dutra Group was determined to be the apparent low bidder. After further review, the Dutra Group's bid was determined to be responsive and responsible. Below the engineer's estimate, that was $1.5 to $2 million. The Dutra Group has a proven track record with dredging and marine construction in the Bay Area, including for WETA. They did Harbor Bay dredging in 2012, North Bay Operations Maintenance Facility waterside construction in 2014, Vallejo terminal dredging in 2017, and South San Francisco in 2018. So we have a lot of experience with them. They do great work. The project is funded with FTA funds, Cal STA State of Good Repair, and Regional Measure 1 funds. That concludes my presentation. We recommend award of the contract to the Dutra Group for the Vallejo Ferry Terminal dredging project in the amount of $1,249,500.
Thanks. I noted there was a pretty good delta between the Dutra Group and the next bidders, who are also good organizations, but that was a lot of savings. So that's encouraging. I don't have any questions. I guess my only question is for the folks for that period of time, and I think it covers Veterans Day. How concerned should we be about that shift of passengers being kind of made to, forced to do something different?
They are being trained on it right now as our response to these low tide events. We're actually shifting service, and Tom and his group are managing that and the outreach, and the riders know ahead of time. So it'll be a little bit longer than what they're used to. Right now, it's on an event by event, like day basis. But this will be for up to 5 days. So we'll be getting the word out. I think it'll also be a message with the fact that we're trying to avoid this with the reconfiguration project and using it to that benefit.
Are in the outreach, are you saying anything about parking and the fact that there is parking on Mare Island and that it's free compared to $8.40?
Which is even less.
Yeah, so our outreach will be similar to with low tides. Low tides was a little tricky because if you parked on one side and the ferry didn't go to the other side, right, we needed to shuttle people back and forth. So our messaging was very specific based on the day, what trips would be impacted. For this one, Vallejo Terminal is just gonna be shut down for 4 days, hopefully just 4 days. And so we'll be encouraging folks that do have vehicles to go over and park at Mare Island. We'll be working with Mare Island Company and other leaseholders over there to ensure there's enough parking. We will provide some bus service for folks, especially on the weekdays. I think that's where our priority for shuttle bus service will be, is on those weekdays where we have commuters. It'll encompass a Friday and a Monday, which is right before Veterans Day. Veterans Day on a Tuesday. We typically do operate normal weekday schedules on that day. We may operate a special schedule, just given the nature of the closure of the terminal. So those being our 2 lower commute days during the week plus a weekend, we think we're going to be successful in shifting enough folks to parking or getting a ride over to Mare Island to not need a ton of buses, but we'll plan for the worst and hope for the best on it.
I think the only other question that I just thought about was, and the reason I'm thinking about it is because it's like, completely shifting for those 4 days. I don't know if you've had any conversations with the city about the condition of the road for people that ride their bikes and whatnot, because the train tracks sometimes are not, and especially with Alstom being gone now, I don't know. We've had bicyclists get caught and, that's a problem, so.
Absolutely, and we're cognizant of the work Caltrans is doing on the causeway as well. So that'll definitely go into our messaging. Folks with cars, we're going to encourage to take the short little jaunts on 37 up arounds, depending on where they're coming from. For bikes and others, we're looking at acquiring buses for the shuttles that will accommodate bicycles in addition to wheelchairs. It's been we'll be reaching out to Soul Trains to find out the capacity for some mutual aid on getting bikes and wheelchairs, especially over to the island, given the mobility issues that we do have between those two terminals. We'll also be working with Solano Transportation Authority with their Lyft subsidy program, which is already in effect. And,
Yeah. To make sure that it can.
To make sure
connect over to
that-
The other side.
Yes, absolutely. And to fast track applications that come in that week as people look to figure out how to get where they're going.
And so is the causeway closed or down to one lane this period of time? Is that right?
We expect that it's still.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Okay.
Other comments, questions from the board?
Move approval. And thank you to all the bidders.
Second,
We have a motion, we have a second,
second.
and we have a second. And anyone signed up to speak on item number 7?
Nobody has time to speak.
Anyone here wish, or in the virtual audience wish to speak on item 7? If not, we have motion and second. Can you call a roll, please?
I'm sorry, just wanted to make sure. Vice Chair Moyer, were you the first? Okay. Chair Wilderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer?
Yeah.
Director Alba?
Yes.
Director Du?
Yes.
Director Hennessy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good luck. Item 8, approved disadvantaged business enterprise DBE and small business enterprise SB overall triennial goals for FFY 2026 through FFY 2028.
Good afternoon, Chair Wonderman and board members. Welcome aboard, Director Annenberry. I'm Terrence Candell. I'm the Government and Regulatory Affairs Specialist. I coordinate our Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program and SFA Affairs other civil rights programs. I will go over the established DBE goal for federal fiscal years 2026 through 2028. And for our newest board member, I'd like to also give a brief overview of the DBE program and SFA Ferry's efforts in complying with that program. So the DBE program is a federal statute that was established by the U.S. Department of Transportation in 1983, aimed to create a level playing field for small businesses, at least 51% owned by economically disadvantaged individuals, to compete for federally funded transportation contracts. This program requires us to track level of participation of these disadvantaged businesses on our federally funded contracts, and report that participation to the Federal Transit Administration. It also requires us to enact race neutral or race conscious measures and methodologies to increase that participation on our contracts. The Small Business Enterprise Program is a race neutral element required to accompany that DBE program with the purpose of increasing small business participation regardless of race, ethnicity, or gender. So SFA Ferry has had an established DBE or SBE program since 2011. So every 3 years, we're required to do this overall triennial goal setting methodology based on a 2-step federal process. The Regulatory Affairs Department, we work with the Finance Department and all of the project managers at SFA Ferry to forecast all federally funded contracts over the that fiscal period, identify the work that is involved with those projects, and then determine the relative availability of certified DBEs to perform that work versus all firms that are non-DBE and DBE that are certified to do that work. So first, I'd like to thank the finance team and all the project managers because this is a hefty amount of complex data that goes into this analysis, and they have worked tirelessly to streamline the information for projects that we haven't even started yet. So I just wanted to commend them for their work and effort. So for federal fiscal years, 2026 to 2028, SFA Fair's DBE goal is 0.14%. That is based on 15 anticipated federally funded contracts. 11 of them are vessel projects, 4 of them are terminal projects, totaling all FTA assisted capital projects over the 3-year period. All of these contracts involve vessel refurbishment, engine overhauls, marine construction, which have all been historically low for DBE availability. Our DBE goals are achieved entirely through race neutral means, and we cannot use race conscious measures unless a disparity study supports our use of race conscious measures, which SFA Fair has never conducted a disparity study. So this means that we have a very low triennial goal compared to other agencies and few measures to ensure that we actually achieve that goal. Since the program's inception, WETA has met its goal over a few different triennial periods, largely tied to landside contracts. Most federally funded capital projects are vessel or marine related, which again have historically limited DBE availability. There are a host of other factors that have impacted our ability to increase that DBE participation, including costs for insurance and requirements for DBEs, contract limitations, as most federally funded contracts are applied to vessel projects, restrictions on counting participation of DBEs that are out of state or not registered within California, and only being able to report the federal share of contract awards. So, you know, our state funded awards are not counted for DBE participation. We have pursued and are pursuing several strategies to increase this DBE participation, such as targeted outreach via the Bay Area Business Outreach Committee. We hosted a Breaking Barriers in the Maritime Industry workshop in 2023. In 2024, we hired a DBE program consultant to conduct an independent review of our program. And from that review, we have begun developing a multi-year DBE program improvement plan. It's a little bit of a mouthful. With strategies that are to unbundle certain contracts, refine our SBE program, enhance our targeted outreach, pursue mentor protege and small contractor development initiatives. And so our established 0.14% DBE goal and 5% SBE goal have been submitted to FTA prior to this meeting, as the deadline for submittal was August 1st. And we would have been out of compliance had we waited for this board meeting to receive approval. So with that said, staff is seeking approval from the board for this goal. And I have to answer, Lauren and I have to answer any questions.
I wanted to say something before. I wanted to thank Terrence for his work on this item. I was going to come up in the beginning, but you beat me to it. So I just wanted to note for the board that when Terrence was first hired in 2021, I handed him this project without him having any knowledge of the DBE program. And I'm pretty sure his eyes glazed over and he was like ready to run out the door. Luckily he stayed. And I just wanted to note for the board that this time around, now that you've had a couple of years under your belt and you were able to pretty much single-handedly do this. And it takes a lot of experience with the program and understanding of the different areas of the program through reporting and through implementation to really make it happen. So kudos to you for making it happen. And I also just wanted to note that as you will see in the board report, a lot of the contracts that were anticipated in the next 3 years relate to engine maintenance overhaul. This is the last DBE analysis that you'll see with 100% diesel fleet. So the next time around, we will start seeing a little bit reduction in that engine maintenance work. And one thing to note is we do program a lot of our federal funds towards that engine maintenance work. So things will start changing as our fleet changes over to electric vessels. With that, I will let him answer any questions.
Thank you, and you for that. So, I don't have many questions because we've been through this before, and I don't, it's not like we're changing anything too drastically here. I visited California Maritime Academy last week, and they've been I don't know, taken over or joined in, togetherness by Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo.
Why can't you like,
I don't know why I can't.
I played
Uh,
with her.
Someone is,
I
needs to make their microphone go away. So, I was wondering, is there something that we could be doing with, so the goal is really to sort of re-enhance a university that is really very focused on all of this work, this kind of work that's done here in the maritime industry, but, I think wasn't doing as much as it was historically could or maybe should do. So is there an opportunity with Cal Maritime to program a way where we could get, putting the goals aside for a moment, where we could get better results, and maybe, show that we're really doing something to enhance the development of industry opportunities for disadvantaged businesses and small business?
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the strategies as we looked at this is that, because of the absence of DBE availability, we can't just increase outreach and suddenly get more.
Yeah.
So we've shifted our focus into trying to build it from the ground up. And so part of that small business mentor protege development initiative is to find these areas where we can take folks who are interested in maritime or in maritime, interested in having a DBE business or having a business that could start as a DBE and be a part of some of these unbundled contracts. So, our shipyard contracts are very large. We can find areas where we can break those contracts up, something smaller that a startup business can be a subcontractor on, that would increase our DBE participation. And part of that is also working with that business outreach committee to pinpoint these places, following the example of the Working Waterfront Coalition, where they have been taking a lot of folks who have been interested in maritime, giving them that introduction and that kind of chauffeur tour. It would be the same idea in this initiative from the business side. We'd have to work with our shipyards to help with that initiative as well.
And not to sound redundant, but if we were to be actually building and repairing more of our vessels in the Bay Area, especially the building side, we have more opportunity to have impact on this, right?
Yes. In the last, so for this analysis, the Business Outreach Committee does a public participation meeting. We actually met with a DBE that is registered as a shipyard. Now they don't actually have a shipyard. And there's more information in there in the analysis about it. But one of the things that we're looking at is for folks like this who have this qualification to, have all these agencies, especially in maritime, build up these kind of businesses so that we could possibly have like a small shipyard, something that we could, give smaller parts of our contracts or our work to increase that participation.
Mm-hmm. Let me just ask Catherine from Hanson Bridget, are we in compliance here with the way we do it? Even though the numbers are so small, we believe we comply?
Yeah, I reviewed this report, and everything complies with the regulations. So he followed everything he's supposed to. And I know it's low, but it reflects the analysis he's done and the availability of DBs.
Thank you. Other members of the board wish to ask questions, comment?
I was just curious, thank you for all of this, and I appreciate your work. I was just curious on the public participation stakeholder meetings. I noticed that both of them were kind of right in the middle of the workday, and I don't know if we have any influence over when those meetings are done. But when I've done stakeholder meetings with contractors in the past, they tend to prefer either early in the morning or later in the afternoon so that it's not interfering with their current contract. Because, that's their bread and butter. And putting something right in the middle of that interferes with them, making money. So just curious if that was a concern shared by any of the stakeholders.
Yes, yeah, that's a discussion that does come up when we're planning these things. But with your comment on that, I can definitely push to have it at a more available time, accessible time. For the
Well, I mean, only if it's desired by because I noticed it was kind of a low turnout, the number of people that attended versus how many were invited.
Yes.
It seems like there was probably an underlying reason for that, either lack of understanding, lack of interest, or the time doesn't work for them. So I was just wondering if there was like a survey done to try to understand why. It seemed like there was something done in that way.
Yes, there was a survey done, and I can get the information from that survey and then get that to you offline. As far as the participation, how that went for all of the businesses that did attend or couldn't. And we're always trying to learn from each of these meetings, because we only do it every few years as a triennial period. So it's a learning experience every time, pretty much. But with the increased outreach that we're planning to do, there are going to be more of these opportunities to where we can have it at more accessible times. And so we'll definitely push for that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Good question. Others? Comments, questions?
Yes, and Lauren, thank you both for the work that you do on the site. I know that it's a very complicated process, and I will share with you that when I got the packet, this was the first item I read. And when I first saw the number, I was really disappointed. I do want to commend you for sharing with us what was coming down the pipe. So that helped me to, I can't say I'm comfortable, but to be more accepting of the why, because I know that we've been tilting at windmills on this particular topic in general, and I do very much agree with the strategy of leveraging the federal funds towards vessel maintenance, vessel repair, etc. So I'm hopeful. I really like the comment you just shared, Lauren, that you know, as our fleet morphs or diversifies, that we'll be able to diversify where we're investing our money and how we can benefit the community to that. I know you all are pulling out the stops, and so that's disappointing as the numbers are. I do like the emphasis on the small business, and hopefully we can keep foreseeing how we can continue to invest in our communities in that way. Thank you for trying, and for also for, again, the transparency that you're providing. This is really helpful. Still disappointing.
Gonna get better. Gonna get better. Other members of the board?
How do we compare to other water transit agencies?
Golden Gate is a good example. We're a close collaborator. They and theirs actually is lower than it's historically been. It's at 3% currently, I believe. And they have you know, I think their federally assisted like marine contracts are like twice the budget of ours currently, with about 3% in that. So yeah, but they also have different kinds of work that they have done on.
They spend their money differently.
Right, exactly. It's in different categories, especially like landside things. So they have more availability technically from DBEs. And that's one of the things we're trying to copy in our projects, is wherever that landside opportunity is, that's where we want to focus and get those DBEs.
Just to add a little bit more flavor, we're the only, well, there's probably maybe one or two others, but there's not a lot of public ferry operators that are a single mode operator. So Golden Gate operates a bus service, also operate a bridge. So they can diversify the amount of DBEs that they get from other types of contracts. We are fully funneled into the marine only, and we fully funnel our federal funds into a lot of the engine and vessel work, which is where there's very low DBE availability. So we're just at a disadvantage when it comes to getting DBEs on comments.
Have you received any feedback from FTA about the law?
Over the years, no. I mean, we've had many meetings with them. We've had to talk with them about, look, this is a position we're in. There's never been any, they understand.
Yeah.
We've invited them to
the Breaking Barriers industry workshop.
And they're fully aware of the disadvantage that we have to be in the marine environment. Yes. And the environment right now is very different. So I'm not sure we're going to see any pushback from FTA right now. Right.
I appreciate
I
all
will-
of your hard work on this.
To Terrence's point about the Working Waterfront Coalition, so, that's sort of the other side of the coin here, and, that's really an exciting thing to see. If you haven't been over to Mare Island to see it, I'd urge you to do it. It's, I think they've graduated three classes at this point, and they're recruiting, everything they're doing, I think that it's really great to see. So while we don't have it on the business side, we're starting to make some headway on the employment side, and we have to have jobs that are available. And so far, I think their placement has been okay, right? They've been able to place people. So, and these are good jobs. So I hope the future is like way different than this. I believe that we're going to break through on this. I don't think we'll do better because the federal government tells us to do better. I think we'll do better because we want to do better. Other members of the board on this? Any members of the public wish to speak on item number 8?
Alita.
Thanks again, Chair Jim Wonderman and members. Alita Dupree for the record, Sheener with Team Polls. Thank you for bringing this forward. I've been studying this issue a lot. There's a lot in flux, especially in the federal level. I really believe in DBE. I think electrification is going to help us to get there. I don't know exactly what's out there, but certainly there's a lot of small engineering firms and design firms. And this is going to require us to be really intentional. Kind of like me back home, gave up my car, riding buses, riding a bike, to buy solar energy for my home, buy more natural foods. And enough of this aggregated creates demand and growth. And there is strength in going out into diverse communities. There really is people who are hungry to do this type of work. And not just jobs, but this is public service. People are hungry to serve the public in these contracts. But why is DBE so important? You want to see what a world without DBE is like. Watch the film School Ties. I'm sure some of you have seen it. Scary stuff about life in an elite private school that's very homogenous, a lot of tension, really angry stuff in that. There is strength in bringing people together. This is a long tail effort. It starts young, bringing people up through education. It's with the Maritime Academy and engineering. And so, yeah, with shipbuilding, there's not a lot of small business in that. But I think this is going to evolve. I want us to see us to do way more than the goal. Now, I think we will, but it will require us to be focused and to go out there in the world and to find the talent that's hungry to do this work. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public on this item?
Nobody else has signed up.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks again. Let's take a motion if we could get one on item number 8. Please. We have a motion and a second. And if you'd call the roll, please.
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yeah.
Director Alba,
Yes.
Director Duke,
Yeah.
and Director Henneberry.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, item 9, 2025 onboard passenger survey results. The hall.
Thank you, Chair Wonderman, Vice Chair Moyer, Directors, Tom Hall, Director of Operations and Customer Experience. And I will be as brief as possible. As doing and reporting our onboard passenger survey results for 2025. So just as a little bit of background, we conduct an annual rider survey
and have since 2022 during the recovery period, just to maximize our insight on how our ridership base is changing. Prior to the pandemic, we did it every 3 years. So the last pre-pandemic survey was completed in 2017, reported in 2018. Corey Kanapari and Galanis is our surveying firm. John Kanapari, one of the principals of the firm, is here to answer any questions that I can't. We're on a 5-year contract with them, and this is the second onboard that they've done for us. The third straight that we've done on an annual basis coming out of the pandemic. This is about a $50,000 annual project, so manageable staff time and help from CCNG. And this year, fieldwork was completed in April with about 1,800 responses, a pretty high survey response rate. People on the ferry are happy to talk about the ferry. So luckily, it's pretty easy to get responses. Just a note that we only sampled our regular routes, so we did not sample the open Alameda Water Shuttle or any direct Giants or Warrior service during April. Key findings, the top line number, we always look for it first when John's team sends me the report. I open it and I scroll right to the satisfaction number. Heartbeat's a little faster before I get there. But thankfully, 98% again for the second straight year, third straight year at that very high level. We say it's the highest in the nation. No one has corrected us yet, so that's what we say. So very high, very good numbers there. It does range a little bit by routes, but pretty consistently above 95%. So Alameda, Seaplane, and Harbor Bay both rated us. Everyone was satisfied. No neutrals on those responses. And South City was the low one at 95%, which I think most transit agencies in the country would take that low number. We did ask this year for the first time since 2017 about different facets of the ferry experience. And had folks rate those on a 1 to 5 satisfaction scale, with 5 being the highest. We saw very high ratings for safety, onboard safety on the ferries, crew interactions, and the ease of fare payment, which is a delight to see given the delays of Clipper 2, next gen Clipper, I should say. Very good to see that people know how to pay their fares and find it pretty straightforward. We did, even our lowest satisfaction ratings were not that low, but the one that did register the lowest was alert notifications, timeliness of alert notifications, which is, as we've discussed in previous meetings, one of those issues that kind of comes with the territory of operating a ferry service and trying to save trips until the last minute. But there was 6% dissatisfaction with that one. Top reasons for writing are very similar to previous years, but we asked folks to give us 3 reasons, or pick their top 3 from a list of reasons why they choose the ferry over other modes. And the number one across all routes is reduced stress. So given their other options, they see the ferry as the low stress option, which I agree with. And then avoiding traffic is always a top one as well. Faster travel is up there as well. It's really interesting to see the differences between the routes. Some routes don't consider the ferry to be considerably faster than other modes. Some routes, it's up there as one of the highest reasons that they choose to ride. And then our rider demographics, we ask every year, just to get a sense of who our riders are. Those are relatively stable in terms of income, ethnicity, origin points, and all of those things. Next steps as we work through this, given that there was some dissatisfaction with our rider alert notification protocols, we're going to continue to work on those and find ways that we can refine those even more, working with our contract operator. We're going to process and review all the qualitative feedback that we received. In addition to having the standard questions on the questionnaire, we also provide an opportunity for riders to provide their open-ended feedback, and about a third of the respondents did provide that. So the CCNG team condensed that, and we're going to continue to go through that and find learnings from that feedback. We're going to leverage that rationale, the reasons for writing answers that I mentioned, in addition to some more refined origin data that we have from the survey to inform our marketing and outreach campaigns. I think this was the first year where we got the right phrasing on the question to find out what city people live in and what route they ride. And so for me, as a Vallejo ferry rider, one of the learnings was Fairfield actually rates really high as a origin city. And we haven't done any marketing in Fairfield since I've been here. So that'll change this year. And we'll continue to go out towards northern Solano County. And that way, there's some other learnings from other parts of the region as well. And then we're going to take the opportunity of this 98% satisfaction to tell everyone that 98% of our riders are satisfied, to convince them to get off the freeways and try the ferry, because people can't be that wrong. So we're going to continue to work on that. And then next year, we'll be back with our fourth recovery survey. We'll do another one this spring with CC&G and then bring the results back next summer. We will continue to look for ways to leverage the opportunity, given that most of the data is pretty stable at this point. We'll find ways to leverage the survey to get answers to other questions we have from our writers. John, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add. Otherwise, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
No, nothing to add. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you, John, for the work, and I think for those of us on the board, the opportunity to hear from the passengers what they think about the service is really invaluable, and I particularly like the individual comments, like what people actually say is really great, and there's a lot of that. And so if you haven't read that, I'd take the time to read it, because that is really very, very informative. It's not surprising that people find the service to be, satisfactory to, extremely satisfactory, because it is. And, I think we all know the reasons of why for that. But then, you kind of get into the nuances of what people would like better about the concession, or, particular parking issue, or, something that somebody's worried about something, or or a particular thing that makes them really happy, that's different. So anyway, it's a really good, thorough report, and I think it's invaluable. So thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo that and recommend that we continue doing it annually, and not think of it just as a recovery survey, but rather something that is shaping the future of the agency. Because we do get invaluable information, and even a snapshot once a year, we know may not be enough, right? But it's so well done that I think we should at least do it at that $50,000 investment, because it brings us a lot of value in priorities for the coming years, even if the data seems consistent.
That was really great. We should partner with the hospitals and say, if you have patients experiencing high stress, prescribe a ferry ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, why just forest bathing? We should do ferry bathing.
Yeah.
Other comments?
Yeah, I think, excuse me. I think that if the biggest complaint is people miss the free coffee,
Yeah.
we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Nice job.
That was a tough week.
And I'll make a motion if that's appropriate.
This is an
Thank you. This
information
is an
item.
info item, so we're not going to vote on it, but I think if we voted, we could get an unanimous vote.
At least nice.
It's valuable and well done, and you asked the right questions, and it isn't, it's possible for whatever reasons, especially once we start using the electric ferries, and we probably going to experience some problem at that point. I know Hannah shakes his head no, but I suspect yes, that we'll encounter some new experiences there, and see how that affects passenger satisfaction. Or conversely, people can't like it that much more, but I think people are going to be really happy to be on these first zero emission ferries too. So be interesting to see over the years, as Director Alba said, how the contours of this as we go ahead.
Yeah, and to continue that thread, we've seen the increase in ridership on Caltrain with the electrification. It's hard to go from 98% to 100%, but yes, that should be the goal. But it all depends on reliability and mechanical any issues that we might have with the new ferry system. And so, if we get it right, it's going to be fantastic. Yeah.
Others? If not, any members of the public on item 9?
Nobody has signed up to speak.
Okay, anyone here wish to comment? All right, thanks very much. This is,
Yeah.
a great, this is a really great read. I'm glad you put it in the back. Kind of good to finish on that after the DBESB. You want to win. All right, item number 10 is the non-agendized items. Alita, the three, I think you've signed up and we'll see if others will join.
Thanks again, Chair Jim Wonderman and members. I'll leave it to brief the record. She and her with Team Polls. It's good to be back with you again. I hope to engage with you more often. Certainly in person, and there's always Zoom as well. Not a frequent user of the ferry. That's mostly due to geography and timing. Now, often for me, riding the ferry is an opportunity. I find myself in the ferry building. It's say 15, 20 minutes to departure. There's really two factors. One is the short waiting time before I board. Two, another thing that I really look for on that board is if it says Railcon. For me, I can get on the Capitol card or go to Emeryville and I'm at my place. I have noticed though that the connection between our arrival in Oakland and the departure of the northbound Capitol card are pretty tight, about 15 minutes. And that can be further complicated if you're waiting across the street because there's a freight train coming through. That happened to me yesterday. For me, I'm in pretty good shape. I can walk pretty fast, even being 59 and a little bit overweight, but I'm an old soldier. I can hook it pretty fast. Not everybody can do that. And yes, things with pedestrian bridges and elevators, that's not under our control. We can't control the trains that are going across. But I'm wondering, we should examine our connections, and it's favorable for some. We can't be all things to all people. Caltrain and BART are working with this at Millbrae. Of course, if the Caltrain is late, you might still miss it. So there's a lot of factors in there. So I would love to meet with people who use the ferry more often. I mean, this is serious transportation. I mean, for me, yeah, it's mostly a leisure ride that I enjoy. Yes, I'll get back to Emeryville with BART and the Emery go around. That's true. But I get my Capitol Corridor experience along with it. And yes, there are AC Transit buses that get fairly close to our Oakland ferry terminal. But there is a theme about how do we bridge these disconnections? Because I want more people to use the ferry. This is a real thing. Water Emergency Transportation Authority. It's not a carnival ride. This is serious, and you know that. I know that, and I enjoy it. The ferry is a safe space for. It's really one of the safest transportation spaces that you can find. Thank you for a good meeting, and we'll see how my timing works, and maybe I'll get on the ferry. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you coming and making your comments, and someone who's such a incredible advocate for mass transit, and so thank you for taking the time to care and to show up and do what you do. We appreciate it. And maybe Seamus, on the point, we could take a look at some future meeting at what we're doing around our connections, and what we could do about it and so forth. Obviously, like I need to catch the 3:30 over to Oakland. So if it was 4 o'clock as well, we could talk more. But but it is, the more service you have, the less the connection becomes important. And your goal of mass transit should be that connections are unimportant. If you miss the Piccadilly line in the London Underground, it's really not much to worry about, because another one's going to come in about 90 seconds. And this is true of mass transit around much of the world. But here, you have to, this is a serious issue because we don't actually run enough service on any of the systems, pretty much, to make that to negate the importance of those connections. So it's my hope that in the future, at some point, we won't really have to focus on that as much. But for now, we do, when we're only running trains every 40 minutes or ferries every hour and those kinds of things. So with that, I will adjourn. Thank you all. Are there other folks who have signed up to speak? Go get. Yeah. And if I run out while you're doing it, it's not because you always interest me, but I will have to leave.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Isabel, this member. Very cool. I agree with the various connections, conversations. I've been looking a lot into the history of East Bay and the old transit system, the key system that used to exist and the connections that existed there. It's like there was a whole pier and the train would go onto the pier and then everyone could board the ferries from there. It was so beautiful. Alas, no longer. I just wanted to make a point or I guess advocate for just the strength of the ferries. I think I was really heartened to hear sort of the way the conversation was talking about not really pitting the ferry against other transit services and leaning into the fact that like each service is able to provide a very different group and service. I think from the survey, it was like notable the income levels of the ferry riders, which I think would be, if we looked at surveys, I didn't get a chance, but if we look at surveys of some of the other services, is probably much higher income than a lot of the other. And so knowing that those are who lean toward using the ferry and kind of going out of the way to use the ferry if that's the case, especially on services that are serviced by other things like the Richmond riders can choose to take either the ferry or BART. And so who's choosing to take the BART versus the ferry and why? I also found it very interesting sort of the connections that like the whole who's going on, how they're connecting to their final destination or how they're coming to the ferry from their original destination, original starting point. And you can very much see what people are choosing based off of what's available to them in those areas, which I'm sure you're all aware of and looking at already. But leaning into the strong suits of the services that it's like you do have the possibility to go to areas in the bay that aren't serviced by any of these other services. And anyways, so
Well, I think it's our hope to be able to, it's hard for us to get on land, maybe with a hovercraft. We talked about it a few years ago, you could do it, but for the most part, we're, limited to where the water ends. However, we could have more terminals and we could have smaller boats and, the pilots, I think are going to be really important. So I suspect in a few years, the service is going to look a lot different. Treasure Island will change.
Specifically to like Redwood service and just the possibility of service from like Oakland terminals to places other than just at Southport.
Yeah. And finally, I'd say the pandemic took a little pressure off us because there just was less demand in the overall system. But I think that's going to change too. So there's going to be more pressure on everybody to do more. Please.
Everyone, thank you for inviting me to Project Runway. Sorry if that joke went over your heads.
I got it.
Thank you. But anyways, my name's Andres. I live in Oakland. Also, I'm a transportation reporter for Bay City News. So I'll make this as quick and concise as possible. So just wanted to bring to the attention of the board that one of the biggest challenges and frustrations that riders have consistently told me and have talked about in workshops with organizations like Seamless Bay Area and such has been the transfer and Clipper 2.0. And I know there's a lot of progress being made on it, but it really is becoming more of an urgent matter for these individuals who don't want to pay for toll, which already has seen increases in it, as well as SB 63, which would increase the sales tax. So the importance of pushing and advocating for members of the public to have Clipper 2.0 to make free and reduced transfers available is something that's being brought up a lot, especially with individuals who live near waterfronts, such as myself living in downtown Oakland, who would prefer to take the ferry rather than take 19th Street BART. However, it just makes more sense to me to either take BART or AC Transit and then use that to get a little further into the city. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andre.
Very important. Others who would like to speak to the board? Anyone on the screen or any other signed up?
Just Jim, just a quick comment. I really appreciate the comment about demographics and income. And so maybe for a future meeting, just comparing our demographics or income compared to a couple of the other regional transit agencies, I think that would be of interest to us as well. And just to keep that in the back of our minds and what we can do more.
You know, maybe, I'm sorry, I've got to run catch ferry. I
There
shouldn't
you go.
apologize too much. But, you know, maybe folks still think we're more expensive
Yeah.
than we are. And not to say we're not expensive, you know, it's, you know, I think mass transit in the Bay Area is pretty expensive. And, it would be nice to see it be less so.
So are the bridges. Yeah.
But maybe folks are still under the impression from before, because it was, you know, really, really tough. But still, some of the rides are still pretty expensive.
And Clipper Start too, if you are in those lower income ranges, the likelihood of you being able to use Clipper Start is high, but it's still a very, very small portion of our ride.
Okay, if there's no others who are urgent about speaking, thanks, everybody. Great meeting. I'll adjourn it and have a great what's left of the week and.
Yeah. Don't miss that.
Yeah. I'll make it. I can hook it too. Not as long